Hello, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay, there was some technical issue, so it took 2 minutes for me to fix that. So, continuing from where we left yesterday in reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, we saw how Robert Kiyosaki joined Mike's dad and was working for him, and he was unhappy about the pay that he was getting. He wanted a pay raise, he wanted to quit. The conversation between Mike's dad and Robert Kiyosaki happened. Mike's dad gave him so many lessons, and in between, and in the end, he had told that use your brain to get what you want. Use your head, use your brain. From getting 10 cents for every hour, from getting 10 cents per hour for the work that Robert Kiyosaki was doing for Mike's dad, now Robert Kiyosaki has reached a stage where Mike's dad has told him that he will not pay him anything. So, with um, the intention of learning how the rich people make money work for them, Robert has agreed to work for Mike's dad without any pay. We'll continue now. Lesson number one: the rich don't work for money. I didn't tell my poor dad I wasn't being paid. He wouldn't have understood, and I didn't want to try to explain something I didn't understand myself. For 3 more weeks, Mike and I worked 3 hours every Saturday for nothing. The work didn't bother me and the routine got easier, but it was the missed baseball games and not being able to afford to buy a few comic books that got to me. Rich Dad stopped by at noon on the third week. We heard his truck pull up in the parking lot and sputter when the engine was turned off. He entered the store and greeted Mrs. Martin with a hug. After finding out how things were going in the store, he reached into the ice cream freezer, pulled out 2 bars, paid for them, and signaled to Mike and me. Let's go for a walk, boys. We crossed the street dodging a few cars, and walked across a large grassy field where a few adults were playing softball. Sitting down at a lone picnic table, he handed Mike and me the treats. How's it going, boys? Okay, Mike said. I nodded in agreement. Learn anything yet? Rich Dad asked. Mike and I looked at each other, shrugged our shoulders, and shook our heads in unison. Avoiding one of life's biggest traps. Well, you boys had better start thinking. You're staring at one of life's biggest lessons. If you learn it, you'll enjoy a life of great freedom and security. If you don't, you'll wind up like Mrs. Martin and most of the people playing softball in this park. They work very hard for little money, clinging to the illusion of job security and looking forward to a 3 week vacation each year and maybe a skimpy pension after 45 years of service. If that excites you, I'll give you a raise to 25 cents an hour. But these are good, hardworking people. Are you making fun of them? I demanded. A smile came over Rich Dad's face. Now look at it now. Look at it here. Look at this. What Rich Dad is doing. He took Mike and Robert for a walk, gave them a treat, gave them an ice cream, and then he asked them, "Have you learned some lesson yet?" And there is a big lesson that you are looking at. If you learn it, you will have a lot of financial freedom. But if you don't learn it, you will be like these people who are playing here. Now, if you want to be like these people, I'll give you 25 cents an hour. So they were being paid 10 cents an hour earlier. After 3 weeks of working for zero, now he is offering to pay them 25 cents an hour if they don't want to learn the lesson. Now there is a choice that they have to make. They have to either choose to learn what Mike's dad is about to teach them, or get 25 cents an hour. So there is a temptation that he's giving them. Let's see, what does he say after smiling? A smile came over Rich Dad's face. Mrs. Martin is like a mother to me. I would never be that cruel. I may sound unkind because I am doing my best to point something out to the two of you. I want to expand your point of view so that you can see something most people never have the benefit of seeing because their vision is too narrow. Most people never see the trap they are in. Mike and I sat there, uncertain of his message. He sounded cruel, yet we could sense he was trying to drive home a point. With a smile, Rich Dad said, "Doesn't that 25 cents an hour sound good? Doesn't it make your heart beat a little faster?" I shook my head no, but it really did. 25 cents an hour would be big bucks to me. Okay, I'll pay you $1 an hour, Rich Dad said with a sly grin. Now my heart started to race, my brain was screaming, "Take it, take it." I could not believe what I was hearing. Still, I said nothing. Okay, $2 an hour. My little brain and heart nearly exploded. After all, it was 1956 and being paid $2 an hour would have made me the richest kid in the world. I couldn't imagine earning that kind of money. I wanted to say yes, I wanted the deal. I could picture a new bicycle, new baseball glove, and the adoration of my friends when I flashed some cash. On top of that, Jimmy and his rich friends could never call me poor again, but somehow my mouth stayed shut. You see, from 25 cents an hour, Mike's dad is increasing the bet. He says, "I'll give you $1 per hour." Then he goes on to say, "I'll give you $2 per hour. Take the deal. Don't learn the lesson, but take the money." $2 per hour in 1956, as Robert says, was big money. If he get that, he can get a lot of things. He can enjoy life, but somehow he was keeping quiet. He was still saying that, "I don't want the money, I want the lesson," though his heart was telling, "Take the money, to damn with the lesson." But he somehow kept shut. The ice cream had melted and was running down my hand. Rich Dad was looking at two boys staring back at him, eyes wide open and brains empty. He was testing us, and he knew there was a part of our emotions that wanted to take the deal. He understood that every person has a weak and needy part of their soul that can be bought. And he knew that every individual also had a part of their soul that was resilient and could never be bought. It was only a question of which one was stronger. See, Mike's dad, or the rich dad, was testing these two boys. One part of their mind wanted it, another part of their mind was thinking, "Okay, let's wait and see what is in store." Now he goes on further. "Okay, $5 an hour." Suddenly I was silent. Something had changed. The offer was too big and ridiculous. Not many grown ups in 1956 made more than that, but quickly my temptation disappeared and calm set in. Slowly I turned to my left to look at Mike. He looked back at me. The part of my soul that was weak and needy was silenced. The part of me that had no price took over. I knew Mike had gotten to that point too. So when Mike's dad offered $5 per hour, which not even elders or adults would earn at that point of time, Robert's mind suddenly stopped being tempted and was strong enough now to learn the lesson. It was the same with Mike also as they looked at each other. "Good," Rich Dad said softly. "Most people have a price, and they have a price because of human emotions named fear and greed. First, the fear of being without money motivates us to work hard, and then once we get that paycheck, greed or desire starts us thinking about all the wonderful things money can buy. The pattern is then set." "What pattern?" I asked. "The pattern of get up, go to work, pay bills, get up, go to work, pay bills." People's lives are forever controlled by two emotions, fear and greed. Offer them more money and they continue the cycle by increasing their spending. This is what I call the rat race. Now, Rich Dad is slowly coming to the lesson. He is indicating that two things are driving people's lives, they are driving people's mind. What are the two things? Fear and greed. What is the fear? What will have the fear is fear of not having enough money. What will I do if I don't have enough money? What will I do if I am not able to pay my bills, or if I am not able to take care of my life? That fear will make them work hard And once they start getting the money, they want to spend more and more to get luxuries. So you want the money to take care of your life, you get the money, there is a little extra money, you spend it on luxuries, then continue the cycle. Continue working, get up in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening. Keep doing the same thing, get money once a month, and repeat cycle. This is what Rich Dad is calling the rat race. The rat race. What? Think about it. Isn't that what most of the people are doing? Isn't that what most of the people are preparing for? Students get up in the morning, they go to school, come back in the evening. The elders get up in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening. Even entrepreneurs get up in the morning, go to work, come back in the evening. This is what happens with everybody. Now, Robert and Mike both are confused. Robert is asking, there is another way? Mike asked. Yes, said Rich Dad slowly. But only a few people find it. And what is that way? Mike asked. That's what I hope you boys will learn as you work and study with me. That is why I took away all forms of pay. Any hints? Mike asked. We are kind of tired of working hard, especially for nothing. Well, the first step is telling the truth, said Rich Dad. We haven't been lying, I said. I did not say you are lying. I said to tell the truth, Rich Dad retorted. The truth about what? I asked. How you are feeling, Rich Dad said. You don't have to say it to anyone else, just admit it to yourself. You mean the people in this park, the people who work for you, Mrs. Martin, they don't do that? I asked. I doubt it, said Rich Dad. Instead, they feel the fear of not having money. They don't confront it logically. They react emotionally instead of using their heads, Rich Dad said. Then they get a few bucks in their hands, and again, the emotions of joy, desire, and greed take over. And again, they react instead of think. First step, what Rich Dad is telling is to tell the truth. Tell the truth. Now, these boys are not lying. See, if I'm not lying, it doesn't mean I'm telling the truth. There are two different things. I might not be lying about what I feel, but I may not be telling the truth about what I feel. So he says, you admit it to yourself. Don't tell others. You admit it to yourself the feeling that you have. Don't be overtaken by emotions when it comes to money. Think logically. Now, Mike is asking, so their emotions control their brain? Mike said. That's correct, said Rich Dad. Instead of admitting the truth about how they feel, they react to their feelings and fail to think. They feel the fear, so they go to work, hoping that money will soothe the fear, but it doesn't. It continues to haunt them and they return to work, hoping again that money will calm their fears, and again it doesn't. Fear keeps them in this trap of working, earning money, hoping the fear will go away. But every day they get up and that old fear wakes up with them. For millions of people, that old fear keeps them awake all night, causing a night of turmoil and worry. So they get up and go to work, hoping that a paycheck will kill that fear, gnawing at their soul. Money is running their lives, and they refuse to tell the truth about that. Money is in control of their emotions and their souls. A very important thing here. Rich Dad says fear and greed are controlling the lives of people. People are afraid. People are afraid about how to face life and they think money can solve the problem. That is why they get up and go to work and try and earn money and assume or hope that money will solve their problems, but it doesn't. They continue to do that, but still money doesn't solve their problems. Money and the need for it starts controlling their emotions and their souls. Rich Dad sat quietly, letting his words sink in. Mike and I heard what he said but didn't understand fully what he was talking about. I just knew that I often wondered why grown-ups hurried off to work. It did not seem like much fun, and they never looked that happy, but something kept them going. Realizing we had absorbed as much as possible of what he was talking about, Rich Dad said, I want you boys to avoid that trap. That is really what I want to teach you. Not just to be rich, because being rich does not solve the problem. Now, Robert wanted to be rich. Robert wanted to make money. Now, Rich Dad is telling, It's not about just being rich, because being rich does not solve the problem. Now Robert comes back to square one. It doesn't? I asked, surprised. No, it doesn't. Let me explain the other emotion, desire. Some call it greed, but I prefer desire. It's perfectly normal to desire something better, prettier, more fun, or exciting. So people also work for money because of desire. They desire money for the joy they think it can buy. But the joy that money brings is often short lived, and they soon need more money for more joy, more pleasure, more comfort, and more security. So they keep working, thinking money will soothe their souls, and that are troubled by fear and desire. But money can't do that. First, he said, it is fear of not having enough money to take care of the life that drives people to work day and night. And the second thing he says is, it is the desire to have a better life. It is the desire to make, to buy the things that they want, to do the things that they want, that keeps them going, keeps them going in the path of doing the same thing every day. Even rich people do this, Mike asked. Rich people included, said Rich Dad. In fact, the reason many rich people are rich isn't because of desire but because of fear. They believe that money can eliminate the fear of being poor, so they amass tons of it, only to find the fear gets worse. Now they fear losing the money. I have friends who keep working even though they have plenty. I know people who have millions who are afraid now that than when they were poor. They are terrified of losing it all. The fears that drove them to get rich got worse. That weak and needy part of their soul is actually screaming louder. They don't want to lose the big houses, the cars, and the high life money has bought them. They worry about what their friends would say if they lost all their money. Many are emotionally desperate and neurotic, although they look rich and have more money. You see this? Robert was thinking it is only the poor people who are afraid of life, who are afraid of having not having enough money. But Rich Dad says even the rich people are afraid. Initially, they were afraid that they will not have enough money. So they work hard and accumulate a lot of money. And once they have a lot of money, they are afraid of losing it. What if I lose this big house? What if I lose my cars? What if I lose my social circle, my quality of life? So the fear of losing what they have keeps the rich people going. The fear of not having enough keeps the poor people going. So is a poor man happier? I asked. No, I don't think so, replied Rich Dad. The avoidance of money is just as psychotic as being attached to money. Ref- Reflect and think on the two extremes of mindset that Rich Dad is telling. One side, the people who are afraid and accumulate a lot of wealth have become psychotic and neurotic. They have become neurotic. They become very obsessed with making more money and accumulating more and more wealth. On the other side, the avoidance of money. Some people you might have heard. They would say, I don't need money. Money is a problem. I am happy with whatever I have. Even if I don't have, I am happy. All these things is also dangerous, he says. It is also as psychotic as being attached to money. As if on cue, the town derelict was went past our table, stopping by the large rubbish can and rummaging around in it. The three of us watched him with great interest when before we probably would have just ignored him. Rich Dad pulled $1 out of his wallet and gestured to the older man. Seeing the money, the derelict came over immediately, took the bill, thanked Rich Dad profusely, and hurried off, ecstatic with his good fortune. He's not much different from most of my employees, said Rich Dad. I've met so many people who say, oh, I'm not interested in money, yet they will work at a job for 8 hours a day. That's a denial of truth. If they weren't interested in money, then why are they working? That kind of thinking is probably more psychotic than a person who hoards money. You understand here? People, some people deny the need for money and say, I don't need money, I am not interested in money, but they are still going for a job. They are working 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. If you are not interested in a job, why are you working so many hours? Denying the truth, that is denial, refusing to accept the truth. They need money, but they are refusing to accept that truth. That is more psychotic than a person who accumulates a lot of money, is what Rich Dad is telling the boys now. As I sat there listening to my rich dad, my mind flashed back to the countless times my own dad said, I am not interested in money. See, when Rich Dad told this, Robert is thinking about his own dad who talks like this, who tells that I am not interested in money. He said those words often. He also covered himself by always saying, I work because I love my job. So what do we do? I asked. Not work for money until all traces of fear and greed are gone? No, that would be a waste of time, said Rich Dad. Emotions are what make us human. The word emotion stands for energy in motion. Be truthful about your emotions and use your mind and emotions in your favor, not against yourself. Wow, said Mike. Don't worry about what I just said. It will make more sense in years to come. Just be an observer, not a reactor to your emotions. Most people do not know that it's their emotions that are doing the thinking. Your emotions are your emotions, but you have got to learn to do your own thinking. Now Rich Dad is confusing the boys. He's telling you cannot wait for your mind to stabilize before working. That will waste your time. But you need to understand that emotions make us human. Emotions are energy. Emotion is energy in motion. You have to use that emotion in your favor and not against you. Boys are not understanding it. He goes on to say that observe your emotions and not get influenced by it. How to do that? I am angry. How do I observe my anger and not act in anger? That is what Rich Dad is telling. When you have emotions, observe the emotions. You are having that anger. Anger is there, but what made me angry, why am I angry on somebody or some situation, and what am I supposed to do should be determined by thinking and not driven by that emotion. What happens when most people are when many people are angry, they will just hit back. If somebody has caused that anger, they will just shout at them, they will just scold them, abuse them, and then when they calm down, they start thinking. What Rich Dad is telling is, when you have an emotion, don't lose your thinking. When you are angry, don't lose your thinking. Can you give me an example? I asked. Robert is asking for an example from Rich Dad. Sure, replied Rich Dad. When a person says, I need to find a job, it's more like an emotion doing the thinking. Fear of not having money generates that thought. But people do need money if they have to pay the bills, I said. Sure, they do, smiled Rich Dad. All I am saying is that it's fear that is all too often doing the thinking. I don't understand, Mike said. For example, said Rich Dad, if the fear of not having enough money arises, instead of immediately running out to get a job, they instead might ask themselves this question: will a job be the best solution to this fear over the long run? In my opinion, the answer is no. A job is really a short term solution to a long term problem. Remember this statement. Remember this statement, especially those of you who want to become entrepreneurs in life, who want to become job creators, who want to become business people. I repeat the statement of Rich Dad: a job is really a short term solution to a long term problem. What is the long term problem? The problem of not having enough money to take care of our lives. Job is a short term solution for that, it's not a long term solution. But my dad is always saying, stay in school and get good grades so you can find a safe, secure job. I interjected, somewhat confused. Yes, I understand he says that, said Rich Dad, smiling. Most people recommend that, and it's a good path for most people. But people make that recommendation primarily out of fear. You mean my dad says that because he is afraid? Yes, said Rich Dad. He's terrified that you won't earn enough money and won't fit into society. Don't get me wrong, he loves you and wants the best for you. I too believe an education and a job are important, but it won't handle the fear. You see, that same fear that makes him get up in the morning to earn a few bucks in the fear that is causing him to be so fanatical about your going to school. So, what do you recommend? I asked. I want to teach you to master the power of money instead of being afraid of it. They don't teach that in school, and if you don't learn it, you become a slave of money. Very profound discussion. This is going deeper. This is going deeper, and Rich Dad is taking these boys slowly, one step at a time, into the depth of understanding the mind and how it works. Robert said that his dad is telling that you go to school, get good grades, so you can get a safe and secure job. Is that wrong? Rich Dad says, no, nothing wrong. It is what most people recommend, and it's also good for most of the people. But the recommendation is coming out of fear. The fear that you might not have enough money, the fear to be safe. The fear is making people to think of those things that make you like everybody else. So if you are like everybody else, there is no problem. Everybody accepts you. The problem is only when you are different from the others. When you are different from the others, you start getting noticed and you start getting questioned by others, because what you do, they are not understanding, or they may not agree to what you do. So, what do you recommend? I asked. I want to teach you to master the power of money instead of being afraid of it. They don't teach that in school, and if you don't learn it, you become a slave to money. Rich Dad wants to teach the boys how to be the master of money and not a slave of money. It was finally making sense. He wanted us to widen our views and to see what the Mrs. Martins of this world couldn't see. He used examples that sounded cruel at the time, but I have never forgotten them. My vision widened that day, and I began to see the trap that lay ahead for most people. You see, we are all employees ultimately. We just work at different levels, said Rich Dad. I just want you boys to have a chance to avoid the trap caused by those two emotions, fear and desire. Use them in your favor, not against you. That's what I want to teach you. I am not interested in just teaching you to make a pile of money. That won't handle the fear or desire. If you don't first handle fear and desire and you get rich, you will only be a highly paid slave. So, how do we avoid the trap? I asked. See, all this while, Robert was thinking that Rich Dad will teach him how to become very rich. But Rich Dad is telling him it is not enough if you become just rich. If you just become rich and you don't know how to handle the emotion of fear and desire, then you will be a slave who is paid high money. That's all. You are still a slave who is being paid more money. So Rich Dad want to teach them how to avoid the trap. So how do we avoid the trap? I asked. The main cause of poverty or financial struggle is fear and ignorance, not the economy or the government or the rich. It's self-inflicted fear and ignorance that keep people trapped. So you boys go to school and get your college degree, and I'll teach you how to stay out of the trap. See, now both the things are happening. Rich Dad is telling you boys go to school, get your college degrees, but I will teach you how to stay away from the trap of fear and desire. He says people are poor, people are struggling with money, not because the economy is bad or the government is bad or the rich people are making more money and there is not enough money to make for the poor people. It is what they have done to themselves. It is self inflicted fear and ignorance that keep people trapped. Ignorance is not knowing something. So, the fear and ignorance that people have is not allowing them to move forward. Until you deal with that fear and ignorance, you will not move forward, even if you are being helped by somebody. That's why you notice our governments in India have been helping the poor for a very long time, more than 75 years of assistance to the poor. But there are people who are still poor in spite of all the help. Something is going wrong, and this might be the reason. You have to think. Self inflicted fear and ignorance. The pieces of the puzzle were appearing. My highly educated dad had a great education and a great career, but school never told him how to handle money or his fear of it. It became clear that I could learn different and important things from two fathers. So, you have been talking about the fear of not having money. How does the desire for money affect our thinking? Mike asked. How did you feel when I tempted you with a pay rise? Did you notice your desires rising? We nodded our heads. Now, we can stop at this point. Rich Dad said what Rich Dad was telling was making sense to Robert and Mike at this point of time. Robert thought that his highly educated dad had great education and a great career. But he was never told in school, all the schools that he went, how to handle money or the fear of not having it, or having more of it and not, and the fear of losing it. So Robert concluded in his mind, it was very clear for him that he had the opportunity to learn two different things from two of his fathers, from the two fathers. So Mike asked, you have been talking about the fear of not having money, but how does the desire affect our thinking? Now, so far, we have learned from Rich Dad how the fear affects our thinking and how the fear makes us keep running. Mike wants to understand how desire affects the way we think. For that, Mike's dad is questioning, how did you feel? Did you get tempted when I offered you a pay raise up to $5 per hour? Both of them said, yes, we got the desire to take that money. We got the desire to take that money. Now we will see how Mike's dad or the rich dad continues with the conversation and continues to teach them how desire influences their thought in tomorrow's reading. Today, we will conclude with this. The important lesson for today that you have to keep in mind is fear and desire. Fear and desire, these are the two things which are driving the thinking of most of the people. And the fear of not having enough money or the fear of losing the money that you have keeps people get up and run to work every day. It is not bad to make money, it is not bad to work to have a good life, but doing it out of fear is what keeps you trapped. The trap is fear. Everybody, as Mike's dad or the rich dad said, everybody is an employee, everybody is working from morning to night, but those who are working out of fear and desire are trapped. Those who overcome that, those who overcome or use the fear and desire to their advantage and work with a free mind, they are liberated. And another lesson that Mike's dad or the rich dad gave in today's discussion was, job is a short term solution for a long term problem. The long term problem of having or not having enough resources for our life cannot be solved by having a job, because Mike's dad or the rich dad says that's a short term solution. As we keep reading this book, we need to understand what is the long term and permanent solution for the long term problem. So tomorrow when we read, we will understand how desire affects the thinking of our mind. So we'll end the stream for the day. Again, as usual, 10-20 seconds to see if anybody has to say something or ask something, and then we'll conclude the day. Good night. Good night, everybody. Like the past few days, go to bed with the lessons that you have learned in this reading, and let these lessons mature and develop in your minds and make you stronger and better and more focused to work towards your dreams and become great people. Good night. Good night, all of you. Take care. See you all tomorrow.